Hello, nerds! Welcome to Generally Nerdy. This is the Week in Nerdom, your place for nerd news updates every day of the week. Today being Wednesday, we are talking about movie news. And this week in movie news, we've got a lot to cover. Not one Batman movie, but 3 different Batman movies to talk about, and a whole bunch more, plus some reviews. So let's cut the fat and get to the intro. First on the list for news, we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. We got some production images leaked. Really, it's promotional art, and it's Jake Gyllenhaal, and you're looking at it right here on the screen right about now. Yeah, it kind of confirms our fears. We're going to be seeing a lot of Mysterio's face. It's a little weird, not going to lie. It very well could work out for the series, or for the movie rather, but it's just weird. Like I totally called that, because Jake Gyllenhaal is a big name. You're not gonna put a big name actor in a suit where you never see the face. So I don't know if that's gonna kill the movie for me. We'll see when it comes out. It's just thought I should share. Next on the list is the Monster Hunter movie. Mila Jovovich has announced via her Twitter that they have finished primary photography on the movie. So we're gonna see that soon too. I just hope it's better than those Resident Evil movies, because those were garbage. Next, we're talking a little bit of Captain Marvel news. We've always assumed with Captain Marvel that when they cast Jude Law, that he would be cast as Mar-Vell, the original Captain Marvel. And we've kind of just gone with that assumption. And then it seemed that assumption was confirmed from the official accounts and all of the things, and then we got some images leaked that showed this happen. And now it seems that he is actually going to be Jan Rog, who is the primary antagonist for the Marvel Comics, the Captain Marvel Comics. Which, I mean, good on him for keeping the secret this long, but it was kind of jarring to hear, I'm not even gonna lie. But, again, this isn't 100% confirmed. The 100% confirmation we thought we had has been deleted, so who knows? They could be keeping a great secret, and he could be nobody important at all. Though that's not super freaking likely. Actually, it's pretty certain that he's Jan Rog, because they've started releasing toys for the movie, and the toy with his face is Jan Rog. So, he's Jan Rog. But still, really, that's a testament, I feel like, to the Marvel machine, that they could keep such a big secret for so long. But yeah, just that's going to be a lot more interesting. We were thinking he was going to be the good guy, and now he's going to be the bad guy, who starts off as a good guy. Conflict and storytelling. Hey. Next, we have a really interesting movie update. One that I didn't realize was in the works. They're apparently making a biopic for Mr. Rogers, starring Tom Hanks. So America's dad, Mr. Rogers, is going to be played by America's dad, Tom Hanks. That's awesome. There's not a bad thing. But the real update here is that the movie finally got a title, because apparently it's been known in certain circles, not this one, but other circles for a while, that it's been in the works. And the new title, or the official title rather, is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So definitely going to be keeping our ears open for that the more we get released. Next is a Zombieland 2 update. Yes, finally some actual hard updates. Aside from the fact that we got the proper subtitle for the movie, double tap, because, I didn't say that in the intro for the section. But we also got confirmation that Bill Murray is going to return to this movie. Not only is Bill Murray going to be returning, but he's bringing with him Dan freaking Aykroyd. But Bill Murray died in the first one, so are they both just going to be real quick cameos as zombies? Maybe he didn't die, maybe somehow they saved him and the bullet didn't take him out, though I'm pretty sure we saw him as a zombie. I haven't seen the movie for a little while, so it's a little fuzzy, but pretty sure that happened. Anyway, good news either way, because Bill Murray's great and so is Dan and freaking Aykroyd. And now we come to the time in the episode where we get to talk about Batman. 3 times over we're talking about Batman. First is the unofficial bit of news, and that is that they're working on a Long Halloween animated adaptation. Now, it's been confirmed-ish, because it's not coming from a direct source. It's not coming from DC. It's coming from a place called Revenge of the Fans, which is a website / podcast, I believe. Website for sure. I don't know if they do a podcast. I can't remember. Anyway, they're reporting that is the next Batman movie in line after Hush, which we'll talk about in just a second. So, Long Halloween is easily one of the best Batman comics ever, as evidenced by the fact that Christopher Nolan referenced it when he was making his trilogy. It was on set for the Tim Burton Batman movies, even though Burton was trying to, not have people look at the comic books on set. That still was one of the ones that they were passing around behind Burton's back. It's a very influential book, so now they're giving it its proper animated movie version, and there have been some names tossed around as far as potential cast members. And pardon me while I read this from the screen. Names tossed around have been Jensen Ackles, Troy Baker, Naya Rivera, Titus Welliver, not Mark Hamill or Kevin Conroy, which seems to be a theme with these animated Batman movies, unfortunately. And the one that we did get freaking Conroy was not good. Anyway, anger for another day. But, so Troy Baker has voiced Batman in previous movies, so he's likely going to be the voice of Batman. I'm handing this one over to you guys, though. Who could the rest of them be in that story? There is not a Robin in the comic. There's not a Robin, so I don't think Jensen Ackles is going to be Robin, though they have taken liberties like that in the past and inserted Robin where he wasn't previously in the comics. He could be playing a Jason Todd Robin if that's the one they insert, if they choose to insert into the movie, but I really don't see the need for a Robin necessarily, so he could be any number of voices. Again, what do you guys think? Who could those other people be voicing in this movie? And then we're going to move on next, like I said, to Hush. This one is already in production, so we know that much. They just, though, announced the parts of the voice cast. They didn't announce the whole voice cast, but a large portion of the voice cast. And again, I'm going to be reading. So, the voice cast as announced, though it has not been announced who they will be playing, so keep that in mind. We have Jason O'Mara, Jerry O'Connell, Tara Strong, Rainn Wilson, Bruce Thomas, and Vanessa Williams. I believe O'Mara has also voiced Batman in the past, so maybe he's the Batman for that movie. Again, we're not seeing Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill, which is specifically weird because both Conroy and Hamill have said in the past, and in the not too distant past even, that they would love to reprise their roles as Batman and the Joker for a Hush cartoon should it ever be made. And now that it's being made, they didn't go to Conroy. I could understand maybe ditching Hamill because, Star Wars is happening and he probably couldn't have done it, but just because you don't have the original Joker voice doesn't mean you can't have the original Batman voice. It just seems like a given. Maybe it was more scheduling conflicts, I don't know. But again, who could these people be playing? Because we don't know. They haven't told us. We don't know who they're going to be playing officially. So let's put our heads together. Let's make some wild conjectures down in the comments. And then our final bit of not only Batman news, but movie news for this episode is The Batman. The Matt Reeves movie with Ben Affleck, perhaps. The script that he had to turn in by the end of the year, we talked about that, I believe in the last episode, maybe 2 episodes ago. Last 2 months have kind of been a blur. I don't remember exactly where it was, but we did talk about it. So the fact that the script that he turned in at the end of the year got accepted. The studio liked it, and now they are reportedly looking to go into production in November. I'm going to let that sink in a little bit. November. Originally, Matt Reeves was looking to go into production around the summer, maybe even the spring, but that time frame just didn't go over well with Warner Brothers. Potentially, and this is my conjecture, potentially because they actually want Ben Affleck, because they have this universe that is starting to kind of sort of work now that Wonder Woman's done really well and Aquaman has done even weller, even more better, the words that I'm saying. So it looks like their extended universe is finally starting to become cohesive. And they kind of already have this character and Superman established with these 2 actors, so perhaps that's why the studio wants to push it back to November. I'm sure there's a lot of pre-production that has to go into it as well. They have to scout locations, yada, yada, yada. But I feel like the negotiation process is going to be the longest issue, regardless of who's under the cape and cowl. And if it's Ben Affleck, that's going to give a fair amount of the fans a better look at Ben Affleck Batman. That's going to give the studio less of a headache trying to nail down a new actor, and then the script doctors trying to work in some way to explain away why he looks different, maybe. And so yeah, it seems like they are still keeping the door open for Affleck. Also, with his recovery and things, that's also one of the things that could be moving it back a little bit. But that's the end of the news, guys. Next up, we are talking reviews for movies this week. Before we jump into the reviews, though, guys, let me remind you about the Patreon. Patreon.com/generallynerdy is where you can go get more nerdy content. You get 2 monthly Discords, depending on the level to which you subscribe. Contributor and producer credits on each and every video, again, depending on the level to which you subscribe. And so much more. Go check out patreon.com/generallynerdy. And now, the reviews. This week in reviews, we are going to be talking about 2 Netflix movies. They're both a few weeks old at this point, but still worth talking about because they are, well, at least one of them is still in the cultural conversation. The other one just kind of thorn in my side a little bit, but we'll get there. We're talking about Bird Box and Seven in Heaven. If you haven't watched them, they're both on Netflix. Go check them out. And we'll talk about it. Or listen to the review and don't check them out either way because, yeah. First on the list, we're talking about Bird Box. What to say about Bird Box that hasn't really already been said? It's okay. It's not horrible. Did you see The Happening from M. Night Shyamalan? Yes, The Happening, the one with the trees killing people. That's kind of this movie. There's a lot of very similar plot devices. There's a lot of very similar plot points. This has a little bit better cinematography and a little bit better script, so it's a step up from The Happening, but that's not really saying a whole lot. This movie is plagued with indecision and poor editing and really confusing direction. There's specifically, when I'm talking about poor editing, there's a scene where Sandra Bullock has the 2 kids and they're going out to the boat and they're rushing to the boat so that they don't, see the monsters. And they're not one single cut in that entire sequence lasts more than a second. Now, I do understand the language of cinema well enough to know that you make rapid cuts when you're trying to heighten the intensity of a scene. However, that only works to an extent. If it's every freaking cut is super rapid fire quick, then it detracts and you lose your audience, and that is what happened in a number of spots in here. And the rising action doesn't have time to rise. It just has pacing issues all over the place. We go from one scene where they're talking about how this weird suicide thing is happening all over Russia, and then about a minute later, we're in a hospital where it's happening in the hospital and all of the... Like, again, I understand that you're trying to show how fast and how rapid this has been spreading, but there's a lot better way to do this. I haven't read the book. I mean, I've read about the book. I've read plenty. I've read certain stuff from the book, but I haven't read the book in its entirety, so I can't say specifically that it was much better in the book, though I would imagine because you've got so much more room in a book, that every part of your story has more room to breathe, that this would have been a lot more well executed in the book. And generally speaking, though, this is still a pretty good way to spend an afternoon doing chores. Just put this on in the background, and it's not going to be super distracting, so as you're not going to get whatever work you're trying to get done, but it's also not going to be so boring as to make you want to turn the TV off. So there's it. That's not really high praise, but there's not a whole lot to praise about this movie. Sandra Bullock's acting is fine. It's not her best movie by any stretch, and she wasn't really given a whole lot to work with. Let's just get to the ratings, shall we? So, general score for this movie, we're looking at a 60 out of 100. Again, it's background noise. This isn't something to waste your mental capabilities on by focusing on it too hard. Truth to the source, so comparing it to what I know of the book, we're looking at about 80, 85 out of 100, just because it has the same beats, but each beat is played wrong. Does that make sense? So, yeah, that's Next, we're talking about overall story, and the story itself is not bad. So, 70 out of 100 for story. It's just the pacing is screwing everything up. You're not developing these characters. I don't really care. And the one character I'm supposed to care about, you spend a good chunk of the movie showing how she's not a great person and how she doesn't want kids, and then she's stuck with 2 kids and she still doesn't want them, so she doesn't even give them names. Like, I understand, again, the motivations behind these things, but you're not communicating them well enough. And then our final score is the enjoyability rating, and this is where it kind of drops off. Oftentimes I will put on a Netflix movie and just watch the movie. Yes, I'll be doing, editing or research or whatever for the channel, but I'll still have a decent focus on the movie. This one, I didn't. I could follow what was going on, but I didn't care. So, general enjoyability of this movie is a 45. Not a great score. But we're moving on. Next on the reviews list, we're talking about Seven in Heaven. Now, I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. I am really freaking tired of lazy movies. Not just lazy movies, but lazy horror movies. And not just lazy horror movies, but lazy Netflix horror movies. Oh, and this one isn't even technically a horror movie, so that's not 100% fair. But it is a quote-unquote thriller. I believe they even tried to bill it as a dark thriller. There's only one actor in this you're going to recognize, which isn't saying much, because sometimes, you could get lucky and cast some great unknown who's going to go on to fame and fortune. I don't think anybody in this movie is going on to anything fantastic. And he's even a secondary character. He's the He was in Office Space. He was the boss in Office Space. I can't think of the actor's name. But he's the guidance counselor in the movie. It's the premise of the movie. And then I'll get into more irks. Premise of the movie is these kids are having a party. They're high school kids. They have a party. They upstairs in the house that they're partying in, the parents' bedroom, some of the kids and our main protagonist, Jude, and his bully / quasi acquaintance, his girlfriend June, so Jude and June, have to go do 7 minutes in heaven in the closet, in this extra closet inside the closet that the owner of the kid who lives in the house didn't know existed. And so they're setting up that this is a weird thing. That setup works. Up until that point, this movie could have been okay. I don't think it would have been great, but it still had potential to be okay. Once we get past that point, once we go into the alternate dimension, because that's what happens. They spend their 7 minutes in the closet, and then they open it up, and they're somewhere else. It looks the same, but it's not. And now we're into my biggest issue with this movie is it's a really tired cliche. It's been around since, and it's related to music, so it's been around since basically the inception of metal as a genre. It's the cliche of metalhead kids are Satan worshippers, and metalhead listeners always wear black and spikes and silly makeup, and you know, they worship Satan, and they ritual sacrifice their pets, and so much stupid cliche in this movie. So that is all within the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then it's just downhill from there. You got plot hole after plot hole. Just there are a few moments where they could have saved it. There's a scene towards the middle of the movie, towards the latter end of the middle of the movie. It's about the right before you reach the actual climax of the movie in Act 3, where there was a redemption possibility, where they're learning that this reality isn't real, and so they can control things, but it goes exactly where you think it's going to go, and it doesn't even try to scare you, even though it's billed, again, as a thriller. And we're moving into the scores for this movie. General score for this movie, this is a bad movie. This is a 40 out of 100. Mythology, so comparing it to other horror movies, there was not a single thing interesting aside from the first maybe 5-10 minutes. 40 out of 100. The story had a lot of very interesting potential. This is the only place where this kind of sort of shines, if you could even say this thing shines at all. So we're going 70 out of 100. And then the last rating is the enjoyability rating. And oh man, Bird Box was one thing. This is something else entirely. We're looking at 30 out of 100. This is a bad movie. Avoid it like the plague. But that, guys, is where we are ending this week's movies episode. Definitely let me know, what did I miss? What should we talk about next week? What do you want me to review next time? Let's talk about that down low in the comments. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That is the place to go. Find all of the nerdy things. You can get deeper in the conversation. The social medias, everything is up on generallynerdy.net. If you look across the top, there is the general store link. You can go find all of the nerdy swag that I've posted over the last little while. Some great new shirts, a lot more gear than just shirts. Check it out. You've seen some of the stuff floating across the bottom of the screen. Go check out generallynerdy.net. Go check out the general stores up on the website. If this is your first time visiting Generally Nerdy, then please Don't forget to subscribe or follow, depending on which platform you're listening on. Definitely click that like button if you like what I'm trying to do, or the dislike button, you know, whatever. Just let me know you're listening out there. And before we go, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.